Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our post-WrestleMania podcast special ending our WrestleMania extravaganza week. Ryan, Juan, Keith, the gang is all here. WrestleMania 32 just concluded. Now, this is a very special video because we're posting this at the same time on our podcast feed and on the YouTube channel, which we are just almost at 5,000 subscribers. We are less than 100. Yeah, we're so close. Less than 100, as a matter of fact. So all you got to do is hit that subscribe button. It's not really difficult. You can join the family and check out all of the other WrestleMania week content we have, including top 10 WrestleMania stages, a WrestleMania 22 retrospective. But you are here to hear us talk about WrestleMania 32, which we do want your thoughts about the show. Drop those on the comment section on YouTube, or send us a tweet at ByteThatCast, rating it 1 to 4, 1 being bad, 2 being average, 3 being good, and 4 being great. And the same thing I got to ask to you guys now. We watched the show individually with our families. My family revolved around Keith and my wife, Nicole. Ryan, we know nothing about your thoughts about the show. So if you had to rate it from the 1 to 4 scale that I just brought up, what would you rate it and why?
Let's see. I would probably rate it a 3, maybe a 2.5 potentially. I thought it was a good show, not an amazing show. There was a few standout matches, but I'm just going to say my overall thoughts right now before we get into specifics. Yeah, it was pretty good. I don't know if I liked it more than 31. I haven't quite decided yet. But it was just too damn long, because I started watching it from the 5 o'clock pre-show, because at least at every hour, the 5 o'clock pre-show had 1 match, and the 6 had like 2 maybe. So you had to, if you wanted to see every single match,
almost 7 hours.
Yeah, you had to be there from 5 on, which is just, I think, insane and far too demanding, not to mention the fact that they went almost an hour over time, which is just ridiculous. Just way, way too much time wasted, I think, with what they were doing. And yeah, I think that hurt it. I think it was way, way too long.
Agreed. I absolutely agree with your 3 and kind of 2.5. I think the show started out as a 4, it was amazing, but at some point, I guess, from it just being too long, just lost a little bit of momentum, and by the end of it, wasn't really as excited as I was for previous WrestleManias.
Yeah, I agree. Now, keep in mind that we are here to talk about WrestleMania, not so much speculation, because that's what the Tuesday edition of the podcast is for. This does not replace our Tuesday show, where we are going to react to whatever happens on Raw. We know the Raw After Mania also has a bunch of stuff, maybe some debuts, which we did have some. We'll get to that. I got to say, I agree. I don't want to agree, but that 2.5 does describe how I feel about the show, like Keith stated. The show started off great. I was smiling. I was having a good time. Bootios, a cereal box in which wrestlers came out of dressed in Dragon Ball Z gear. You think that the show can't really get much better than that. And I would say that a lot of the things that we were looking forward to, even though they happened, which sadly a lot of my predictions were right, but I can't really sit here and say that I did love that. Now, we don't have that much time because we do have our personal things to get to. So I want to just
sleep.
Exactly. Yeah. That is realistically the thing. But overall, recapping the pre-show. So we had a match between Kalisto and Ryback in which Kalisto retained. We had the Total Divas versus a almost said bald and beautiful, bad and blonde. I don't know why I got that mixed up.
Close enough.
Which we saw Lana in action. Any quick reactions about that?
Meh.
They were very careful with what she did. She didn't have to do a whole lot. She kind of got her moves in and got out of there as quickly as possible. So obviously they're protecting her a lot because she looks very limited. But it was fun. I like her gear.
Yeah, cool gear.
She wears it well.
It was just weird that how Lana was like the centerpiece of that feud, but at the same time they have to protect her, so there's a little bit of disconnect there. But yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, same. I thought it was a cool thing that she got involved, and she did way better than I thought. I mean, she does have an athletic background, so that plays into this whole thing not being as bad. And the last thing is the Usos versus the Dudleys. Pretty traditional tag team match. The crowd was about 50-50 on them. What really mattered there is that we were treated to a double table spot, I guess, to really get the crowd ready for the
Which
show.
the Usos have been doing on like every show up until this point.
They're great at that. They're great at doing that build-up thing,
Yeah.
but when it comes to them really being that tag team for the show, I think maybe WWE realized that they are not that, which is why this got moved to the pre-show. Last thing that happened before this match, as a matter of fact, Lita revealed the brand new WWE Women's Championship, which is essentially, and this is pretty amazing, it is just the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, black and red. So they really are upping the level and the scale of
strap.
White,
white strap and the red background
And
with the
smaller.
logo. Yes. Overall reactions on that?
Awesome.
I think it's really great. Everyone's been demanding it for a while. We're done with the lower back tattoo butterfly
No
belt.
butterflies.
Yeah. We got a women's championship now. It's the right time for it. It looks just like the men's title. It's got its own little kind of uniqueness to it. So, I think it's great. I think there's not a lot of people who are against that. Definitely much needed. I just kind of, we kind of breezed through all the pre-show matches. A few quick thoughts I wanted to just throw in was the pre-show really felt like a pre-show. It didn't feel like Mania yet until the real show actually started. I mean, there was like maybe 30% of the crowd even there for the Kalisto Ryback match.
Which has to suck for them.
Yeah, it really does suck. I mean, Ryback did not even look thrilled to be out there at that point in time. And the Divas match, obviously this was Brie Bella's last match, so she had a good send-off, and I think, you know what? For everything we say about her wrestling, she really made it count with the yes lock. I think she executed that really well, and for her final match, I thought it was a decent send-off.
Agreed.
Yeah, overall, they were matches that were there to build up the show, but none of them felt like they had the opportunity or even time to sort of just feel like a match at WrestleMania. Like that first one has to be some sort of an insult for those guys because you work so hard all year, and maybe 20 to 30% of the crowd's there. Most of them are, taking their selfies with the arena. Now we get to the show itself. The first match is the ladder match, where the conclusion, and 2 out of the 3 of us did call this. One of us, I'm not going to point fingers.
The other one said that we were crazy. I wonder who that was.
I bow down to you guys. I can't. Thank God I didn't make a bet. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, because otherwise you weren't just going to have to do the Macho Man thing. You were going to have to do a lot more than that. Zack Ryder is the new Intercontinental Championship. Ryan, Keith, and myself, overall impressions on the match, and then Zack Ryder being the new IC champ.
I thought it was a really strong opener, and it felt like Mania at this point. I loved it. Sami Zayn, I think, was definitely the standout in this, and the interactions between Owens and him was just fantastic. Zack Ryder, huge surprise. But, I don't think there's a guy who could have won that match that I would be more happy for winning than Zack Ryder, because the struggles he's been through. And he wasn't even supposed to be in this match.
Yeah.
Because Neville got hurt. Zack Ryder is IC champ right now, and I'm really happy for him.
How do you think that feels for Neville, though, about, that could have been you, like, in that winning the title spot instead of Zack Ryder, but you got hurt? That has to
can't feel good.
Be a bit of a sting. But yeah, like you said, Ryan, overall it was a great opener, very solid match. Everybody had their moments, their great spots. Nobody had a bad performance. There was just enough confrontation between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. I'm honestly happy there wasn't more. And like you said, happy for Zack Ryder. That's really the only way to describe emotion towards it. It just feels good that Zack finally got that title win and that WrestleMania moment after so long.
Because you and I were talking during the show, and it was like, you can punch each other, referring to Owens and Zayn, but leave it at that. Like, we want this to be a tease. And everybody got a good spot in, from Stardust to Sin Cara.
Punching and then frog splashing onto a ladder.
Well, that too. But it wasn't like they had moments, but they weren't just flat out doing this.
And didn't he also just Wait, was it Zayn that just basically killed Kevin Owens at the end?
Yeah, I mean, he did the
Where
DDT.
he did that, what is it called?
No, that suplex, that back suplex,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
onto
yeah,
the
yeah.
ladder that killed Kevin
I
Owens.
thought he was,
Oh my
I
God.
thought he was dead.
Yeah, like I grabbed my head because you saw he landed directly between his head and shoulders, like right with
Yeah.
the neck. I mean, that can easily take a guy out. It was cool
I
though
don't know
because
who the hell thought that was a good idea.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
But we did notice, especially when Sin Cara and Stardust had their moment, that the ladders were actually made out of wood, almost all of them.
Yeah,
because they were a little bit discolored. Even the ladders that they were climbing up on, when they got a little close, we're watching in HD, so eventually, you are going to notice. You saw the wooden stripes, letting you know. So I'm assuming wood absorbs the damage more than aluminum.
Yeah, in hindsight, it makes a lot of sense because usually wooden ladders are more sturdy than the aluminum ladders, and there's less chance for them to buckle under the weight of whatever's happening with those ladders. So I thought it was a cool little thing, and it, in hindsight, like I said, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and overall, the match, like I mentioned, everybody got their spots. Even Sin Cara, I was saying, like, please.
Yeah, Sin Cara had a hell of a spot.
Yeah, like where he could have easily botched that. I mean, just being able to go from the ladder to the ropes and then dive off, that's not exactly something that's easy because he doesn't really have control over that. It's based on the momentum and everything that's happening. Ultimately, though, Zack Ryder is your new IC champion. I was so happy that the crowd was really invested because I even told this to Keith, like, he has some of the crowd support, but we know that Zack Ryder has gone cold for the past couple of years. So I'm hoping that when he did grab that championship, the crowd was going to be happy. Not just, the guy's been there long enough. Like, why not give him the championship? But we got to see that beautiful moment between him and his dad. I admit I got a little bit emotional. WrestleMania just started. The energy was up there. And as somebody that I got a freaking Broski Beat Sprite. I got a Zack Ryder shirt. I have a Panda with a You Know It shirt before that even showed up on TV. So I'm like one of the first members of the Zack Pack in a way. And just seeing him finally get that since 2011 or something was really nice.
Feels good, man.
Yeah, it really does.
And I like how the dad tried to put the cowboy hat on him, and he just immediately ripped it off his head. Like,
Yeah, like, not happening.
This isn't like a funny moment right now. But I think the audience was definitely behind it because it was a big, like, shocking win, and B, did I say A? I hope so. Anyway,
You said A.
And B, that this is the hardcore fans, and I think every passionate WWE fan has like a soft spot for Zack Ryder.
Indeed. Now, getting to the second match of the night, almost all the matches were pretty big in some way, shape, or form. Chris Jericho
It's
battles.
WrestleMania. They should.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope so.
Yeah.
This was weird. This is where it may be an ongoing trend with our discussion here. Chris Jericho, AJ Styles, a lot of high expectations. I even brought up in the podcast this had the potential to be the next Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 19. Now, I'm just going to take over the spot here for the beginning because I got to say that I was very let down by this match. Something about it did feel off, in particular that before every move that happened, there was just an awkward pause, and it didn't feel like they were selling or something. It felt random. Even the end, everybody knew what was going to happen. He was going to springboard, and Jericho was going to do the code breaker. It was seen a mile away. So then Jericho sort of grabs the ref, but then lets him go. So there was no reason for that to really happen. So then Jericho wins the match. The crowd goes mild because it felt too obvious. It happened, and everybody was sort of taken aback a little bit, myself included. What about you guys?
Yeah, totally. It felt. I think it had a serious pacing problem, like you said, Juan, where like there would be a spot and then they would milk it way too long, and it just happened a few too many times, and like near the end of the match, it was every spot that they started milking, and even at the end of there, Jericho was down maybe a little longer than he should have been, and AJ was just kind of like taunt the crowd over and over, and you could see that code breaker coming a mile away, and then AJ lost. And I think that's really weird how AJ would lose to Jericho in this in his WrestleMania debut, and that one didn't really sit well with me personally.
Yeah, I've been very I've probably been one of the most critical people of their previous matches. Honestly, I thought this one was fine. It just, I think they seemed very tired in between spots, and I think that's what kind of kept I don't know, maybe they just got off too quick to a start. I know what you guys mean, where it just seemed like there was a little bit too much time in between spots, and the flow wasn't quite there. But far from a bad match. I thought it was just fine. It wasn't that WrestleMania 5-star classic that we all wanted it to be, but nevertheless, it was still good.
The one moment where I recall seeing them just either act tired, or because we're not wrestlers, we're not here to talk about the logical process that they went through. But as a fan, that is what I saw when AJ did his combo where he does a couple of shots like the backspin. Like the way he did that, there was barely any impact, and that was close to the end of the match. So I don't know if maybe something happened where they had to end the match earlier, but it just felt off because maybe the crowd wasn't into AJ as much as WWE thought they would be. So those pauses, usually you would expect a huge AJ Styles chant, and they were supporting him, but not to that extent. But regardless, once again, we're not here to speculate. We're here to talk about specifically what happened or overall impressions on that. Jericho Styles, a personal letdown for me. Number 3.
Agreed.
During the second match, a lot of people were having their heads turned to the side, and that's because there was quite a huge cereal box being placed on the stage. A lot of tweets were there. We retweeted it because there's a huge-ass Bootios box on the stage. Now, not only is that crazy, the box gets put down, Cheerios come out of it. That's already great. And we see Super Saiyan New Day make their way out. We are big Dragon Ball Z fans, all the way to DBZ Abridged, which is a series that is happening online. What did you guys think about that entrance?
Perfect. I couldn't have asked for anything better. It's even better than the whole riding in on a unicorn speculation that happened. I marked out so hard when they came out in Saiyan uniforms, and it was amazing.
The hair.
Yeah,
oh god.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, all of us being DBZ fans, any kind of inside references to things that you like, that it always makes it a lot more fun. So I thought their entrance was really cool, and then the fact that the League of Nations had to come out with the videos box still there,
and
they had to
just
kick
kicking all the cereal.
Yeah,
no Cheerios.
And they were just Alberto Del Rio just seems like he just doesn't care. Like they were trying to do their thing at the ramp, and Del Rio's just doing his own thing. Like he doesn't care. Also, they all wore some aspect of red, except for Del Rio, who wore what the New Day. He was wearing New Day colors with the gold and everything. Like he just looks like
Maybe
just
he's
doesn't
hiding
give
the
a
fact
damn.
that he doesn't want to be booty. He wants to be part of the New Day. It's a possibility.
Could be.
Think about that. But
could be a hint of what's to come.
One thing that was taken back from the promotion for this match, originally it was scheduled to be a tag title match, no longer the case. So that led to the speculation that the League of Nations was going to win, which they did. I thought this was a standard traditional tag team match that was pretty good. It was outnumbered in a way. I am surprised that Xavier Woods was actually the man that was tagged in the longest. Everybody got involved. Big E got the spot with the double spear, but legally tagged in, I believe Xavier got the most action, who is usually the member that is active the least. So, any overall impressions about the match?
It was a good match. Nothing really stood out, but like you said, Xavier got a lot of time, and I think he did quite well for himself. There was one weird spot that I wasn't a big fan of, and that was that triple spear that Big E did to the outside. It looked weird. Like if it was just two people, it would have been fine, but with the Barrett in the mix on the ground, I thought that turned out weird. But it was a good match, kind of like the AJ Jericho one. Nothing special, but you kind of expected that more of this match opposed to that one.
Yeah, I mean, the spectacle of the entrance was kind of like the main attraction of this.
Yeah.
The match was fine, and yeah, I think if he just gone with a double spear, it might have been better. I think they were trying to do a little too much, trying to get a little too cute with that. I like that Woods got more ring time. He definitely hasn't gotten enough until recently. So it's nice to see that. Other than that, I don't really have too much to add to that, except for, of course, what happened after the fact.
Exactly. This match, it wasn't about the match, right? Like, the entrances were great and everything else that happened. So the League of Nations point out that no three-man team will take them down. Obviously, it's going to lead to something. So I thought maybe it was a faction or something. But no, we get Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley. It didn't happen in that chronological order, but the last one, the third one, and it still bugs me in a great way. Shawn Michaels in wrestling gear.
Oh, it's so tease. Just a tease.
Don't do that.
It hurts so good to see that, you know?
How do you feel about that?
I mean, when's the last time any of those guys... Well, Michaels always gets physical, I guess, in a lot of these altercations. But when's the last time Steve Austin or Mick Foley actually got
getting beat down and everything?
Yeah,
got into any brawls or anything like that.
Like, they didn't really make it front and center in the camera, but there was a while where Rusev was beating up Stone Cold Steve Austin. Who was the last dude to do that to Stone Cold?
Yeah.
But that whole scene was cool. I remember reading a while ago of why they changed it to a match not for the tag team champions, and something along the lines of the planned finish wouldn't make sense if the titles were on the line. And after seeing this big moment, yeah, I totally understand what they were going for now.
Exactly, because otherwise they were going to become champions and boom, taken out. It's like,
get beaten down. But it was a really cool moment. I remember after Michaels and Foley came out, I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, if that glass shatters, I'm gonna freak the F out. And sure enough, it did. And yeah, got to see a couple stunners. Rusev sold the stunner like a champ, and it was awesome.
And we got to see Stone Cold almost dance, eventually stunning Xavier Woods. Understandable, because otherwise WrestleMania, I think the network would have exploded. Which, by the way, I had terrible experiences. I had to watch the show in 3 different devices: my computer, my tablet, and my PS4, because it kept stopping nonstop. I sent out a couple of tweets about that, so hopefully not a lot of people had those problems. I did, which did.
I was lucky.
TV. I had 0 issues on Apple.
I've had issues on past pay-per-views. It was messing up a little bit at the beginning, but I was fine the rest of the way. But yeah, I like that Austin. He started to tease the dance, and then he did the stunner. It's like Austin, in character integrity, Austin will never lose that with his character. He always knows exactly what Stone Cold would do. And I thought that was great.
Agreed.
Match number 4. The match that we were really looking forward to. Dean Ambrose, Brock Lesnar, street fight. The faces say it about... Oh, Ryan, you're laughing already. So just go.
We were all so hyped for this. And it was nothing like what we wanted. It was just... it was kind of like... it was like an Extreme Rules match. And I mean that by Extreme Rules the pay-per-view. That's what it felt like. It wasn't
That's
that
a very good
WrestleMania
analogy.
thing. Why do you tease the barbed wire baseball bat in a freaking chainsaw and then deliver on neither of those? And of course can we be done with the pile of chairs spot? Can we be done with that? Why does that have to happen in every single weapons match, or no holds barred, whatever you want to call it? Every single one lately has the damn pile of chairs spot. Let's be done with that. It was ridiculous to me to tease barbed wire and then just have it be so run of the mill.
Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I honestly don't remember. Did Brock Lesnar not end up using a weapon in that match?
He used the kendo stick a bit.
Yeah, the kendo stick a little bit. That's about it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I said that this was going to be my match of the night on the podcast, and I was so let down by it. It was just not... It was nothing like I expected it to be. It was a cool little, like, oh my God, Brock Lesnar is throwing Dean Ambrose around the ring, but there was really no reason for that to be a street fight from the match that it was, opposed from like, oh, this gives like Dean a bit of an edge, but they didn't even really capitalize on that a lot. Like, all things considered, Brock Lesnar was dominant for most of that match, and Dean just kind of took a beating.
Dean went down way too easy.
Agreed, and I'm very disappointed by that match.
Two things. This reminded me of when WWE did Brock Lesnar versus Big Show at, I believe it was Madison Square Garden or something, for a live special. Everybody knew exactly what was going to happen. Same thing with Brock and Kofi, as a matter of fact. This felt like the next iteration of that. WWE is going to build him up as the monster. He's going to win, and that was about it. And you build up Ambrose, like you said, Ryan, with the chainsaws and all that. Like, of course, we're not expecting actually any kind of murder to happen, but why do you bring us as a fans, like with Raw, he comes out with this cart, bringing up all these things to then only
and then there was no
not
cart.
really deliver. Exactly.
Yeah, he didn't even bring the cart. We didn't even see the steel steps really get used much, I don't think.
No.
And it was kendo sticks, chairs, basically what we always see. And the barbed wire bat and the chainsaw were really just teased. Yeah, we're not expecting him to chop him up with the damn chainsaw, but it would have been cool to see some sort of clever spot where maybe he sawed off something and it hit Lesnar or whatever. They could have done something with the chainsaw.
Or even the barbed wire baseball bat. Like, I felt it was very weird that Dean Ambrose wore a shirt in that match up until the point where he brought out the barbed wire, because you could have left the shirt on, even get a hit against Ambrose just so it's there, just so it's utilized, and then go to your finish.
I made a huge mistake hyping this match up.
You and me both.
Thinking it was going to be so much more, thinking this was going to be a breakout performance for Ambrose, and it really wasn't what we wanted it to be, and that is probably the biggest tragedy of this WrestleMania.
Agreed.
Exactly. The biggest crime is not that we thought Dean was going to win. We agreed. He has to lose. It's not even if he loses or not. He has to lose. But he has to lose great. And he looked weak. Like 1-5 and you're done, man. I mean, cheers, whatever. But like you've been building yourself up.
The only explanation I have for maybe why it didn't go the way we wanted it to is because the Hell in a Cell match was kind of telling the story that we wanted this match to tell.
And maybe just don't do this match, like now what for Ambrose? That once again, not the conversation. I'm hoping, and I'm curious for anybody watching this after Raw, because we can have a lot of things maybe justified by WWE, but getting to the next match, triple threat match for the women's championship. That feels
how nice
really
does that
nice
feel
to say.
Yeah.
It's great. It's a breath of fresh air. Before I even talk about the match, you pointed out, Keith, that the announcers were not referring to them as divas, but superstars. So I'm hoping that that's a trend that continues going on. I hope it's not a WrestleMania thing like, hey, new title. But then no, we're back to the divas. Total divas may become total superstars, but then I don't know. That may be they do have Dean Ambrose now.
That might be the one thing that sticks. I think that's the only diva term that's gonna stay.
Unless it's just a stable now that is called Total Divas. Bam, justified. But Charlotte. Do I say defend? No, Charlotte retires the Divas Championship against Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And before the match itself, two cool things. First of all, Charlotte paying tribute to Ric Flair's last robe at a WrestleMania, which was great. Then Sasha, you get your family member, you get Snoop Dogg for your entrance. I mean, that is something. That is boss.
Well, not only that, but it's almost a little bit of symbolism for just how far the women's division has come in the last couple of years. Because if you remember back to WrestleMania, I can't remember exactly which one off the top of my head, but Snoop Dogg came out to introduce like a Divas Battle Royal, and it was Snoop Dogg front and center with all of the divas surrounding him and trailing behind him. Fast forward all these years later, now you have Snoop Dogg introducing one of the divas. I thought it was a really cool little bit of symbolism for just how far it's come.
Time changes.
Yeah.
Wow. That is an excellent example to show really how far things have come. For this match, well, I think some people still say Becky Lynch's hat is at the top of the stage over there. But bell to bell, I think this was the best match of the night. Like, without question. It was the most solid match to me. I really enjoyed it. I also am so proud that I called that Charlotte was going to retain. Somebody
done.
else did too.
Yeah,
or did all of us?
I called the end because I mentioned that
You
Ric
did.
Flair
Juan
would
even
be.
had it specifically the ending.
So let's talk about the ending, and more specifically, let's talk about the camera work in this match. While it was a good match, it had a little bit of a slump. There was that botch that kind of took the steam out of it for a little bit.
Yeah, the beginning with the flip spot.
But the camera work in this match was brutal. It
Multiple
missed
times.
so many things. And even at the end there, the whole Ric Flair holding Sasha out of the ring was barely in frame. And that bugged the living hell out of me. I hate stuff like that. Like maybe, yeah, Charlotte doesn't know that happens, but you as the viewer should be able to see that at least front and center for a little bit of a shot. And I didn't like the camera work in this match at all.
Looking back, this really was I don't know why when Ryan said this was one of the better matches of the night, you and me sort of looked at him like, yeah, I guess.
But thinking back, yeah, kinda.
I think it was the best match of the night.
Let's put this in context first, because these are the NXT divas, right? Like the part of the four horsewomen. This did not even compare to any of their NXT matches. Personally, I thought any match involving Bayley, Sasha, Becky, and Charlotte in NXT were so much better. I do believe that beginning did take a little steam out because Charlotte basically had to knock herself off, but they were in that groove. And when you think about the context of the whole show, this was the only wrestling match that had some kind of pacing to it that you weren't sure who was going to win, because if you look at every other match, with the exception of Jericho and AJ, and even then it was because it was disappointing, and it was because it was so expected based on the way the spot was going to happen that it kind of let you down. With this, you were like, anybody's a viable option, because even Becky Lynch, it seems like she has such a little chance of winning that it makes sense for her, right? To like pick up the upset victory, the first ever WWE Women's Champion. I thought that Sasha Banks paying tribute to Eddie Guerrero was awesome. Everything
that was cool.
Yeah, her tights, her boots, the Hurricane Rana in the corner, the frog splash, which the camera did a poor job of illustrating it for the first time. It just
was kind of cool to just be like totally out of nowhere. She just splashes.
That's true. So dangerous because she landed right on the knee connecting part of the figure four. That could have went so wrong. And man, speaking of things going wrong, Sasha's dive to the outside, where if she didn't roll, probably would have died.
Yeah.
That's some scary stuff right there.
I grabbed my head because if she didn't finish that tuck, that roll,
that'd be real bad.
Sasha may be in the hospital right now, which goes to show once again that they really did give it their all. This was probably the best match of the night. I will say this is the match that I want to go back to and watch first. I don't think I'll be watching this whole show again, but I want to be able to watch this knowing all of the results now of the show and seeing what I think about it, because I think I'll like it a lot more. It's going to be a match that slowly gets better as you watch it.
Agreed.
That's about it, because I do want to get to more things, but once again, we got to wait. Raw has so many things that it can really do. The sixth match, and this is why Raw can take a big turn or not. Hell in a Cell. Shane McMahon versus The Undertaker. I forget what our predictions were, but the idea was like Shane has to win, right? Because otherwise everything sort of goes back.
I picked Undertaker.
I picked Undertaker as well.
Okay, well, I guess I just sort of thought that maybe I don't get what's going to happen with the Authority, but as for the match itself,
nothing. It's the same old crap, Juan.
I feel like
nothing changes.
To start with the entrances, I feel like there was a bit of a metaphor that happened where money fell from the sky in Shane's entrance, and then the fire from the Undertaker's entrance just burned that money right up.
Yeah, so what happened was that The Undertaker did defeat Shane McMahon. Now, as Ryan, you mentioned, this match really told the story, I would say, for what we expected out of Dean versus Lesnar, which is Shane can't win, right? I mean, Shane's been out of action for years. It's The Undertaker at WrestleMania. He's not going to allow Shane to win. That is what happened. But let's get the cat out of the bag. The spot. Everybody was wondering, what the hell was Shane going to do when the stage is not freakishly huge? Shane dives off the frickin' Hell in a Cell. Your take.
Unreal. absolutely unreal. Like, when he was standing up there, I'm just like, how's he gonna live? How, like, what if he misses? Like, is he just
We're
gonna
not
die?
even sure right now if he is. Or
Is
if
he gonna
is.
die right in front of his kids? Like,
Oh my God.
what is
Daddy!
going to happen?
Daddy!
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as like a full-on match, it was all right. It was nothing spectacular, but there was a few nice spots in there that kept it interesting. And yeah, you can't ignore one of the most insane spots ever. He's the first guy to ever go off the new larger Hell in a Cell, and it was ridiculous. Like, you could see the break, like, you could see that they definitely had some extra, like, inflatable stuff or whatever under that announce table.
Yeah, but whatever.
There's nothing that's going to really solve that, though.
I don't fault them in the least for any of that. In fact, I'm glad that they did so that he could live. And, yeah. It will always be remembered. Like, that is the one. That is when people think of WrestleMania 32, they're gonna think of that moment.
That's
for
Edge
sure.
spearing Jeff Hardy through the air.
Jeff Hardy
of this
through the
WrestleMania.
table.
They got their new like highlight for WrestleMania. So if nothing else for this WrestleMania, we will always have that moment.
Exactly. Like you said, Ryan, it was a very mediocre match, but I think the big spot is so big that it just eclipses the rest of it. It doesn't matter what the rest of that match was. Like, there was some weird stuff where it really showed that Shane hadn't wrestled in as long as he had, especially with that triangle choke where he just kind of had his floppy arm going around everywhere. But yeah, it was a good match, and then that spot was unbelievable. I still can't believe it. When Shane was on the... I felt how high it was for Shane when he was up there. Like, oh, this is
when
so
they did
tall.
that pullback
Please
shot.
don't jump. Please don't jump, Shane.
Quick
And
side
then he
note.
did.
Undertaker's Droolamania was running wild.
What was up with
Yeah,
that? Multiple
wow.
times. Like, old man
I don't
drool
know,
said
it was
Keith.
weird.
Old men drooling. Plus, was that the first time you've ever seen a sleeper hold through a table?
I think so. Hey, it worked. It was effective.
beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's a weird match to say it was mediocre, because if you think about it, it met the fans' expectations, right? You expected the big spots, and they did happen, and there were multiple. We got the coast to coast. We got that. We got the sleeper through the table. We got a choke slam onto the steps. So when you look at the context of the cell cage being part of the spear spot, so you may think it's like an average match, but is it really? And I'm not saying that, you guys are right or not, because even myself, I'm like, it was a good match, but it delivered on exactly what people wanted.
No, absolutely. I think it had a lot of great high spots. It was just how the story in between those spots wasn't the greatest. I mean, these are two older guys, and one is not even like really a wrestler, and Undertaker has just got so many miles on his body, he can't keep the pace up. The pacing was just a little off, but there were some amazing high spots in it, so it's definitely not bad. It's just I think like I said, the pacing just hurt it a little bit, but it doesn't matter, because it's always going to be remembered for its high spots.
Exactly.
Yeah, so ultimately, once again, Raw, out of any match that we've seen, will tell what the future of the WWE is. Please get rid of the Authority. Next match. And this was random and honestly a little freaky, because as I mentioned, Keith and I were watching the show, Ryan, and continuously I kept calling out things that either I spoke with him before or I mentioned in the podcast, and they kept happening. And at the top of the show, I mentioned, I think Baron Corbin's going to be there. He got the upset loss against Austin Aries at TakeOver. It makes sense for Corbin to show up. Corbin's in the match. So a little freaky. Not only is it the match,
weird surprise entrance into that they kind of glossed over, like Tatanka.
Yeah,
was in there.
Tatanka, Sam Roberts, and Katie Linendahl have got to love this.
I immediately thought of that, was that Katie Linendahl has to be freaking out right now. Oh yeah, Shaq. Freaking Shaq.
Why?
Okay.
Not
Why?
complaining.
DDP was cool. That was cool.
But yeah, Shaq was like, I don't know why, I mean, obviously because Shaq is freaking huge, but like he just really belonged,
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, we saw Baron Corbin win this match. It's difficult to talk about what really happened. It's a battle royal. It's like the Rumble where, it's not like you see all these memorable moments aside from Big Show and Shaq getting involved. We kind of got to break the rule a little bit here and speculate somewhat. Do you think that this victory clarifies or basically states that Baron Corbin is part of the main roster?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, if the winning a match at WrestleMania, I'm pretty sure if there's any way to get called up to the roster, that's one of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a huge deal, completely unexpected. And we were basically all wrong on our podcast predictions because the Wyatt family didn't even end up being in this match. Our
predictions weren't even in the match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta love Battle Royals.
Congrats to Corbin. I mean, that's a hell of a way to debut on the main roster.
Yeah. I would assume that this means a debut for Baron Corbin, but I'm left wondering how that's going to go.
No idea.
I don't know if the future looks too bright on that one.
Honestly, I think he's going to be doing pretty good, but let's wait for that. Now,
Indeed.
This is the point where we looked at the time. We pulled out our phones because I don't have a watch, and there were about 15 minutes left on the show per schedule. A little confusing. The show
on an
went
already
almost an hour
long
over.
show.
Yes, WrestleMania was over 4 hours, including the pre-show. The Rock shows up, states that they broke a record. Over 101,000 fans inside of that arena, which is outrageous. It's crazy to even think, how many fans are in there from a worldwide. What's up? That's supposed to be the whole Bray Wyatt thing. Really poorly done. Bray Wyatt comes out. Definitely a good excuse to not be in the Battle Royal, right? If you're going to be in a segment involving The Rock, we got a match between The Rock and Eric Rowan.
Think about that. Let that sit
The Rock and
for
Eric
a minute.
Rowan was the semi-main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, honestly. I'm still a little bit confused by this.
I need to go to Reddit/r/Eric Rowan and see how much they're
this
going
is the
ape
biggest
shit.
day for them. That's crazy.
The biggest day indeed. We saw this segment that eventually revealed that John Cena is back, or is at least back for this. The way they made it seem, they mentioned, we didn't expect Cena back for months. The way they made it seem is as if he's back, not back for WrestleMania. Do you think that this is some kind of a situation between the Wyatt family and John Cena now? So they're back feuding?
God, I hope not. Just kick the Wyatts while they're down one more time, I don't know. When The Rock and Cena were going up the ramp, to me anyway, it sounded like they were saying, "Oh, we'll see you soon, John. Thanks for hanging out for a little bit." So I don't know if this is Cena back full time or not, but it was kind of nice to see John Cena, and that's a sentence I never thought I would say, but here I am.
Yeah, recent interviews, he said he was cleared, and it's really just waiting for the call. Clearly, they called.
Yeah.
Will he be back full time from here on out? Because, he just did a couple moves there, but is his shoulder really ready for a full-time WWE schedule? We don't really know yet. But, it was nice to see him, and, he is Wolverine, and he's back already. But he was doing ridiculous hours of physical therapy from what I hear. So he's always going to come back earlier than expected. And hey, if he's back for good, I'm happy. And if he needs a little more time, hey, so be it.
And doctors need to extract blood from Cena and I don't know.
Just to go back a little bit, you glossed over the most important part of that segment, and that's how The Rock came out with a flamethrower.
Oh, yeah.
Because
he
he's
could.
The Rock.
He's The Rock, and he lit the word rock on fire because he's The Rock.
But he didn't get all of that C, Keith.
No, there was just the little things, he missed part of the C. Like, if this is a C, he missed right here-ish, and it just bugged the heck out of me.
Now, I was a little disappointed because I did mention in the show that I thought The Rock's involvement was going to be with the main event. Now, it's time to talk about the main event. WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H defends against the Roman Reigns. What
the guy with the biggest pecs.
The ultimate, yes, but the ultimate heel entrance of all time. Basically, you have one half of the Authority basically saying you are completely worthless with this badass music in the background. You're all the way up there. Everybody is down below you, or the majority of the audience. Stephanie is like a goddess or something, talking to everybody. Did you guys like that entrance? Triple H always has
so
odd ones.
Cool. I loved it. It made me. Matthew of Botchamania fame sent out a tweet that after seeing that really wanted to watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and I totally second that.
Is that the really bad one?
It is, but God, that looked like it came straight out of Mortal Kombat Annihilation in the cool way.
The Triple H entrances for me, they're always a little too hokey and over the top. I mean, I thought Stephanie's promo was still great and just like so over the top ridiculous. Like they love to pull out the theatrics, and like it can be a little much, but I also appreciate the effort they put into it.
Indeed.
Getting to the match itself. For context, the show was well over its runtime by this point, so some people are either tired or maybe, the show has not met their expectations. No, I can easily raise my hand to all three of us are raising our hands. A lot of reasons to not look forward to this, regardless of the match itself. That's the whole context, right? Now, getting to the match, the crowd immediately, not for Reigns, pro Triple H. That leads to a weird atmosphere because no real interference happened with the exception of Stephanie McMahon. It did conclude with Roman Reigns becoming our new champion once again. And in a place where you have over 100,000 people are inside this arena, the crowd went mild for the majority. You closed out WrestleMania, and it felt almost like a really nice match for Raw. Now, two questions here. One, what was your overall enjoyment? And, the overall, obviously Roman Reigns is champion. But here's the second question. Do you think the crowd and the runtime affected how you felt about the match that maybe otherwise would have actually been considered much better than what we think about it?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's...
I think everyone at this point... I mean, I think I was losing a lot of energy once The Rock, Rock segment went on pretty long. And I feel like that's when I was, like, looking at the clock being like, how are they going to do this main event right now? They're totally out of time. Like, I know they told, like, providers, like, cable providers that they were going to be, like, 20 minutes overtime or something.
20 minutes?
Still, they went over that.
They went way over that. So I was just like, at that point I was getting tired because I was just like, we're all like, our like basically biological clocks are like trained to be like, we're tuning out at 11.
Bad.
You know what I mean? So, so when it went way beyond that, and also everyone's kind of interest in this match was at, like medium at best, already. Plus just, it's way late. And we've been watching wrestling since 5 p.m.
Yeah.
I think it's just like nobody's heart was really in it at this point, and we couldn't really muster the energy to really enjoy it, and we weren't really into it to begin with. So I think a lot of those factors really hurt this match. I mean, I don't think it was that bad. I just did not care.
Agreed. It's the match that I want to go back and watch the most.
Yeah.
Because, like Ryan said, just fatigue kicked in at that point. And imagine being there, sitting in that crowd for that whole time, and just seeing the whole show, all the highs, all the lows, and still being there at the end. I understand if they were a little mild because of that, because I know fatigue kicked in for me personally. And it seemed like an all right match, but it was just kind of clouded over by the dark cloud of inevitability, where you knew that this was it. We dodged the first bullet, and now the Roman Empire is gonna reign now. And sure enough, they closed the show with Roman winning the title. So on its own, the match was all right, but it just seemed like, okay, let's go through the paces and then end up where we're gonna end up anyway. And here we are now. Now Roman's probably gonna have a real long title reign.
It's exactly as we brought up in the show. We knew the inevitable was going to happen, so just get it out of the way. It is sad that I can't really speak for you guys. My reaction the moment Roman Reigns won was, okay, cool. So can we record now? Like, I didn't feel
I agree, but that's because
I was like, let me wait and see if anything's gonna happen, and if nothing's gonna happen after it, good. I was really. I no-sold the hell out of that ending. Like, I just didn't care, you know?
Yeah.
Because we all knew it was happening. And like you said, Juan, let's just get it done. Roman Reigns beat the Authority. Can tell us a new story, please. Tell us Roman Reigns versus literally anyone else that has nothing to do with the Authority. Please, for the love of God.
Regardless of what happens, and this is the overall take, I guess, that we can get from WrestleMania or the main event in particular, Roman Reigns won. Can we close not the chapter, the book? I would like a new book with a new story, maybe a new protagonist. Part of me thinks that's not going to happen. I am going to just say here,
you're in for a very disappointing few years, my friend.
Just in case, I'm going to throw the crazy prediction I tweeted out. This show seems a little bit too by the book based on the Shane match and the main event, and I think that on Raw, we are going to get a friendly group by the name of the Balor Club to really change things up and sort of be a babyface type of NWO. So instead of being the bad guys taking over the show, it's good guys, sort of basically a vigilante group. So maybe if Sting can maybe join this group, it would be great. But I do predict that something to that extent will happen. Now, we've talked about all of the things that happened here at WrestleMania. What would you say was the highlight for you for the show?
The ultimate highlight was Shane jumping off the cell. You really can't beat that because you were just like, is he actually going to do it? Is this actually going to happen? So yeah, as far as one specific moment, it's that. And like I said, my favorite match is the women's championship match. It's gonna take a while to get used to that.
We're brainwashed.
It's true. It's going to take a little while to break that habit.
Mm-hmm. No, I have to agree with you, Ryan. Like Juan mentioned earlier in the video when you said that the Diva... I just did it too. The women's match was the match of the night. At first I was thinking, yeah, maybe, but thinking back, yeah, it really was the match of the night. It was the most solid match. The only other match that I would argue that about is the ladder match, but that was good for a whole different set of reasons. So I would say, yeah, the high points were the women's match and the big spot from Shane, because nothing will ever come close to that, and nothing should ever come close to that spot ever again. So it was very cool.
The spot is obviously the easy answer for me. It has to be Zack Ryder winning because, as I mentioned, I've been a huge Zack Ryder fan for, like over half a decade. That's a little ridiculous to really think about.
Think about WrestleMania 28. Me and you went to WrestleMania 28. We bought Broski headbands, and that was already very, very deep into your Zack Ryder fandom. And here we are.
But I do agree. I think the women's triple threat match was outstanding.
At least one of us didn't screw it up.
Yeah. Guys, I got to end the show with a question I'm a little afraid to ask. Did WrestleMania reach or get close to your expectations?
They definitely fell below my expectations. I looked at this card and I was like, this is a pretty damn solid show. And I thought it was just okay. Like I said, that 2.53 area. I don't know why you're going 1 to 4, man. That's so weird.
I know,
why didn't
right?
you have 5 in there?
Because honestly, the Twitter poll only gave me 4 picks, so I went based on that.
Okay,
so leave me alone.
All right, so we're gonna send a sternly worded letter to Twitter.
Because I would have gave a 3 if we were at a 5, but instead I will just say 2.5. Yeah, like the card looked a lot more stacked, and I think there was just a couple matches that fell below expectation. Undertaker Shane wasn't this 5-star classic, but I think that reached expectations. But things like Jericho and AJ and the Brock Lesnar Dean Ambrose falling way below expectations, I think those are what really hurt the show. And also just long run time and Triple H Roman Reigns just like being too tired to care.
Exactly. I think as the night went on, it met my expectation less and less, because at the beginning I was like, yeah, WrestleMania, let's do this. And then as the night went on, especially around the street fight, it just kind of kept losing momentum and losing steam. And that's where that 2.5 that I agree with really falls into play. Because at the beginning of the night, it was awesome. It was one of my favorite WrestleManias. I was in full WrestleMania hype mode. But I can't, sitting here now at the end of the show, I can't really say the same thing.
I was watching WrestleMania 30 earlier today, and I really enjoyed going back and watching that show because it told a story that I really wanted to see happen, and it did, with like Dana Bryan, etc. I don't know if I can do that with this show because it feels like the story changed a chapter, not a book. So I'm not going to really get something like that. So that's why I got to say that WrestleMania did not meet my expectations at all. And it really does suck because our expectations were pretty good. We were pretty optimistic about the show overall. We weren't negative Nancy's about it. I know people love to complain about the product, but we gave it the benefit of the doubt. It's a strong card despite the fact that, you don't have your Rollins, your Cena's in the show. Cena was there, but not, in a match standpoint. When you even have a crazy thing like Eric Rowan versus The Rock and you still feel sort of neutral, I think it speaks volumes about the damage that the character that Roman Reigns has done to the overall show, because we're not here to really talk about the guy, one-to-one or something, but I think that they've tried to invest so much in that character that in the process, at least for me, it did hurt this whole show because that's what you end it with. At the end of the day, that is the closing image. It is Roman Reigns becoming champion to a mild crowd, and neither love or hate, just sort of neutrality and a chapter or book being closed. So guys, that has been it for our WrestleMania after show. At WrestleMania after show, we got an after show. I always wanted to say that's pretty cool. If you guys like this, make sure to like, subscribe, join the family. Almost 5,000 subscribers.
So close. Look at Keith's face. Like,
so
Keith,
close. And if you're on iTunes, if you're in the feed, if you want to see Keith's face, you want to see the smile or kind of smile that he has now.
The such tired smile.
Yeah, all that you got to do is join the family.
We're going to bring some Mountain Dew Kickstarts next time, Maggle.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Or at least a Red Bull for Keith, something. But yeah, we are going to talk about what happens on Raw on the Tuesday edition of the podcast. Keith needs some sleep right now. We need some sleep. We are ending this recording as of 1 a.m. my time. I can't even imagine some of the people in other time zones that WrestleMania started at like 2 to 3 a.m. Holy crap.
You have my
don't even sleep. You just get up for work. So thank you for watching this special thing. Stay tuned for the podcast, and we will be back with tons more right here on the Byte That Wrestling Podcast.